Welcome to the Steelers Schedule Release Show.
Good evening and welcome inside our KDK studios for our 2023 Steelers Schedule Release Show. I'm Richie Walsh, joined by our resident Steelers analyst, Chris Hoke. And everyone had a chance to see the schedule now. It's been out since 8 o'clock tonight. But, Chris, this is the night it seems like most Steelers fans have been waiting for. Did you feel that way when you were a player?
It's so interesting to me, Richie, because you look at it right now. All the Steeler fans, talking about Steeler fans, we're talking about for 32 NFL teams, everybody's excited about this. And they're excited about what's happening tonight, the unveiling of a schedule. When I was playing, we didn't even know when the schedule was going to come out, Richie. We didn't even know what divisions we were going to play. Now it's so analyzed, it's so critiqued, it's so combed over. Everybody, it seems like all NFL fans know what's going on.
Yeah, you're right. This day has turned into an event, just like everything else the NFL does. It wasn't that way 10, 20 years ago. I love it as a fan, also as a journalist, so I know where I'm going and when. So, Chris, let's get right into this, and I want to get your thoughts. So the Steelers open up at home for the first time since beating the Browns in 2014. Sean Sweesom hit that game-winning field goal there to win that one, 30-27. This year, it's the 49ers come to town, which we're one quarterback away from making it to the Super Bowl. Tough game right out the gate, Chris.
Right out the gate. It's a physical game. Not only is it a tough game, you have the AFC West champs coming in town. They play a physical style of football, so that's going to be one the Steelers have to get ready. They can't warm up into the season because the next week they got a Cleveland team. You don't know how they're going to be. Deshaun Watson has an offseason to get prepared and get with it with the Browns, so they could have two tough games coming out of the gates.
All right, after the Niners, they have a Monday night matchup against the Browns in Week 2. Then hit the road for the first time, and it's their first time playing in Las Vegas, taking on the Raiders on September 24th. That's a Sunday night game. Back-to-back road games the following week are in Houston, October 1st. Home against Baltimore then on October 8th. Then they get a bye. It seems like it comes at the right time.
Yeah, because when you play Baltimore, it's always a very physical game. Smash mouth, buckle your chin strap. And then it's good to have a bye week after that. If you look traditionally, the Steelers and the Ravens both struggle the week after the Steelers-Ravens football game. So to have a bye week here, but when you see that next one, Rich, you see it at LA Rams, I might think about, would like to have those switched because it's tough going west and then coming back. It's nice to have a bye after the Rams game. So you could switch those if you could, but I like having that bye week after the Ravens.
All right, well, then they hit the road, like you said, against the Rams, followed up with 3 straight home games. Jacksonville on the 29th of October. Quick turnaround. The Titans come to town 4 days later on the 2nd, the first of 2 Thursday night games, Chris.
And Jacksonville's great, right? They are an up-and-coming team. 9-8 last year. They made a lot of noise. They're going to be much better this year. And then the Titans, you better be ready on Thursday night. They're going to try to run the football. Another very physical team.
Yeah, Green Bay on the 12th. That's their extra home game this year out of the NFC. Then 2 divisional matchups on the road at Cleveland on November 19th, followed up with Cincinnati on Sunday, November 26th. December starts out with Arizona on the 3rd. Then their second Thursday night game. This time it's Bill Belichick and the Patriots. 2 Thursday night games.
I mean, it's never happened, right?
Yeah.
2 Thursday night games. And, Mike Tomlin can say this could be tough, but also could be a blessing for the team, depending on injury situations, Richie, because if you have some injuries, it's good to have an extended weekend off, right? It's a modified bye week because you have 10 days to the next game, so you can get some starters, some rest, let their bodies recover.
No rest before it, though. Week 15, the Steelers are at Indianapolis. That game is TBD, so it could be the 13th or the 14th, but we have no idea of a time then either. Then at home against the Bengals on Saturday, December 23rd. Then they hit the road for a New Year's Eve matchup in Seattle, finish the season at home against Baltimore. That game is also TBD. So I'd love to get your initial thoughts of this schedule. It seems like it might be a little bit easier at the beginning than compared to last year. Remember that tough start. I think it's favorable, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
It's favorable if the Steelers come out. Remember, the last several years, the Steelers have struggled coming out of the gate. They've struggled to come out to win games. They have to start fast, coming and playing against a physical 49ers game, then having Cleveland. Those first 2 games at home are going to be tough. They go on the road to some lesser, competition, if you will. But if they can get started, you cannot lose early to teams that you have to beat because it always comes back to bite you like it does with the Steelers last year because tiebreakers matter.
All right, well, the Steelers have 1 less road game this year. They travel to 8 games as opposed to 9 games last year. The NFC game rotates home and away every year. This year, the Steelers get the home NFC game against the Packers on November 12th, like we talked about, Hokie. Not only 1 less weekend away from here, it's also a lot easier of a road schedule in terms of competition.
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at that right now. You're talking about at Houston, I think Indianapolis. I'm just looking at the schedule as it goes on. At Vegas, those games aren't as tough. Even though it's tough playing out west, those teams really had down years, really disappointing years for all those franchises. So I don't see the road schedule being as difficult. The home schedule, the Steelers got to be excited, the fans, because it's going to be an exciting 9 games at home.
Yeah, and you can see only 3 playoff teams on the road. 2 division games, Bengals and Ravens. And Seattle is the only other team coming off a postseason game last year. You have Cleveland, Las Vegas, L.A., which I think will be tough, Indy and Houston. I would imagine L.A. and the Browns will be a lot better, right? But to me, this is definitely more favorable for the Steelers when you look at those records.
There is no question about that. 5 of the 8 teams are playing on the road, losing records last year. Very disappointing years for some of those teams there. And so they're going to look for bounce-back years. But to me, as you look at the schedule, it looks much easier when you play away from Acrisure Stadium.
Well, so the Steelers have 2 Thursday night games, 1 Sunday night game, and play once on Monday night. Timing matters for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin has his best record on Monday night, but the good news, the majority of the games are on KDK, and Tomlin has a .633 winning percentage playing Sunday afternoon. The Steelers will play once Sunday night. They are 19-14 all-time on Sunday night under Tomlin, but he's 4-6 since 2018. Tomlin isn't good on Thursday nights either, and they play twice. He has a losing record on Thursday night. So, Chris, 20-3 on Monday night. Why do you think Mike Tomlin's teams seem to be so dominant when they play on Monday as opposed to the other days?
That just surprises me. 20-3, I remember when I was playing too, it was the same way. Even when Coach Cowher was here, we were really dominant in Monday Night Football. It makes me scratch my head. It leaves me perplexed. But all I know is this, is that when you are playing on national television and all of your peers throughout the country are watching you, it rises your blood level. It excites you, and you play at another level on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and now Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, you can feel the energy. Well, the NFL schedule release has turned into an event like we just talked about, and a super secret event for that matter. The Steelers put out a funny video each year. Last year it starred Cam Hayward and Franco Harris. Let's see what they did this year.
Hi there, Jimmy.
Hey, my name's Zach.
Well, Billy?
Zach.
How would you like to take a break from detention and learn how to make a schedule release video?
I wouldn't.
Okay, get bent, Bobby. We're doing this. But first, a little history lesson. For nearly 100 years, the National Football League schedule came out with little fanfare. There was no hubbub, hijinks, malarkey, tomfoolery, or shenanigans.
So what's changed?
What's changed? Content.
Golly gee, mister, I had no idea the schedule release video was even a thing.
Oh, it is, Ralphie. And it all began in a bakery in the Pacific Northwest, creating opponent-themed cupcakes.
I like cupcakes.
I'm sure you do, Randy. Let's first learn 3 simple rules of schedule release videos. 1, be creative. 2, be original. 3, don't be unoriginal. Now, let's get started. Tell me a couple of nifty ideas.
Well, I guess my first thought would be to just type out the schedule and hand it to the coach.
Wrong, Ricky. That's lame-o. And it's been done before.
What about if the content team is just sitting around trying to brainstorm ideas for the release video, and that's the whole thing?
Guys, how about we grill the schedule?
No one wants to know how the sausage is made, Billy.
What about a TV show themed schedule release video, like Game of Thrones?
Well, leave it to Beaver, Billy. You can rest assured if it's popular, at least 3 teams will do it in the same year.
What if we let the computers and robots come up with the schedule release video?
Robots scare me, Tommy, but I imagine you're onto something. Many teams will let AI write their scripts this year.
I got it. What about a pop star with a lot of face tattoos playing beer pong with the owner?
Now you're cooking with gas, Bobby. What else you got, you little whippersnapper?
How about Japanese animation? That seems to be oddly popular.
Oh yes, anime, the crown jewel of last year's schedule release videos. Creative, original, and not unoriginal.
Gee willikers, mister. Now I think I got it.
Yes, Billy, I think you're ready for your first schedule release video. But before I go, let me leave you with the 5 S's of very successful schedule release videos. Schedule, storyline, splash, surprise, and, schedule.
I still think we should let the robots write the script.
How do you know they didn't, Zach? How do you know they didn't? Now wave to the camera.
All right, thanks to Zach Gentry and the Steelers TV for that video. As always, great stuff. We just broke down the regular season schedule. Coming up, we will get into the preseason schedule. Stay right there.
Steelers Schedule Release Show is brought to you by GetGo. GetGo. Better believe it. Welcome back to the Steelers Schedule Release Show.
All right, welcome back to the Steelers 2023 Schedule Release Show on Pittsburgh CW. 3 games, only 1 home game, 2 on the road. All the games can be seen on KDK. You can see right there. Week 1 at Tampa. Then they're home against Josh Allen and the Bills the following week, and then at Atlanta. So what do you think about the preseason there?
Well, the first thing I look at is they don't have to travel very far, right? The farthest travel is to Tampa Bay. You don't want to travel a lot during the preseason. The second thing is, again, home games. Great home games this year. The Buffalo Bills, usually that now with the 3-game preseason, that second week you have the Buffalo Bills coming. Josh Allen's going to play. Exciting game there for the Pittsburgh Steelers at home in the preseason.
Well, preseason is always a good time to look at the rookies, right?
Yeah.
But this year I think it's important to pay attention to the development of Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. What do you expect from those 2 guys?
Well, this is going to be a big year. I think the Steelers are going to go as Kenny Pickett goes. Been a lot of talk about last year. Did he play well in the first 3.5 quarters? He played well in the last half of the fourth quarter, but how did he do the first 3.5 games? He had 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions last year. Yeah, he threw a bunch there for the first few games that he started, but this is a big year, and he's got to take that next step. George Pickens, he only had 52 catches last year, 3 a game. He's got to get up over 100 catches this year. I expect that to happen because he is a big-time playmaker.
Yeah, no question about that. Last year, the Steelers traveled the least distance of any team in the NFL. This year, it's definitely not the case. Last year, they didn't even leave the time zone, and their furthest trip was Miami. The closest they got to another time zone was Indianapolis. This year, with all of the travel, they will cross over 20 time zones. The travel is a lot more, and they have 1 less road game, so look at the average miles per trip, which is more than double. They will be traveling 16,525 miles, which is more than 10,000 more miles from last year to this year. Did this matter to you as a player?
Yeah, it really didn't. I mean, yeah, some of those trips when you played on a primetime game and then had to come back, those were tough. But overall, people don't really care about that. You get home at a reasonable hour and you get a day off.
All right, so Chris, for you, what is the easiest home game for the Steelers? This year, a little tougher to pick because you have teams like Jacksonville and the Browns are much better, right? Who do you think they have the best chance to beat at home?
Well, listen, Green Bay, they lost Aaron Rodgers. They came off a very disappointing last year. I mean, below 500 schedule, and so I think 6-11. So I think that the Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love, nobody knows how he's going to play. They're going to come in, and they're going to be the easiest game for the Steelers at home this year.
Well, I definitely have to agree with you with the Packers because even though the Titans aren't supposed to be good, they have Derrick Henry, who could have a field day against any team. So conversely, what will be the toughest, biggest challenge on the road?
Well, you look at it, you can't pick a division game. That's easy, low-hanging fruit. Going to Seattle late in the year, Geno Smith had a great year last year. You're expecting them to be a little bit better this year. At Seattle, playing in that game, it's a tough environment. To me, that's the toughest road game this year.
Well, yeah, that's a tough place to play. I was there the last time the Steelers played in Seattle, and for me, other than Kansas City, it's the loudest place I've ever been.
Very loud.
For me, it's the Rams game. 2 reasons. Aaron Donald, and I think the Rams will be much better than they were last year. Coming up next, we'll dive into why the Steelers will be better this season.
Welcome back to the Steelers Schedule Release Show.
All right, welcome back to the 2023 Steelers Schedule Release Show. We are focusing a lot on the schedule tonight, but for the next 3 or 4 minutes, we want to talk about the guys playing in these games. And this offseason was an offseason of change for the Steelers. They were pretty aggressive in free agency and the draft, adding guys that will make an impact this season. So let's look at the major additions, Chris. Patrick Peterson was the big name on this list. Some wide receiver depth with Allen Robinson, a couple guys inside on defense, Cole Holcomb and Landon Roberts. Then the big guys up front on offense, Isaac Seumalo and Nate Herbig. On defense, it's Fiocco and Armin Watts, and a former first-rounder, Keanu Neal. So out of that list, how many of these guys could start for the Steelers?
Well, I think there's a handful of those guys to start for Steelers. I think of Patrick Peterson, and I'm excited about him coming in. They lost Joe Hayden, got another veteran cornerback that's going to come in and be good for Joey Porter Jr., right? To really work with him. I mean, one thing I talked about, Patrick Peterson played with his dad, Joey Porter, out in Arizona, right? And then you look at there, and what's intriguing to me is that Cole Holcomb inside linebacker signing. Is he going to come in and be able to play 3 downs like they think he's going to play? Can he cover someone out in space? We're going to find out real quick. I like to pick up Seumalo. I like that pickup. They need some physicality more on that offensive line. He brings it. He's big. He's tough. He's physical. From the Eagles, I like that signing as well.
All right, so one of the guys that we just talked about will be starting somewhere is Patrick Peterson. Where do you see him making the biggest impact for the Steelers defense? Because we know he can play outside, but he also can play inside and is expected to play some safety too.
Yeah, I mean, as you get older, that's kind of a natural progression to move out from the outside to the safety position. But I see him playing corner. It's interesting them cutting Arthur Millette, yesterday, because what's going to happen? Are they thinking about him moving inside a little bit and playing there? Who knows? But right now, you have to think that Patrick Peterson's going to play that cornerback position and be a great mentor and leader on that defense.
All right, the other high-profile name they added, getting Kenny Pickett help, adding wide receiver Allen Robinson. Now, I like this move because not only production on the field, he brings that, but a veteran guy in this room, a leader. And when you think about it, you trade away someone like Chase Claypool, and then you add Robinson. Sounds like a huge upgrade for this team.
It's a huge upgrade. He hasn't had a good year in 2 years, right? The last 2 years have been down years for him. 410 yards, a little over 300 yards last year. But 3 years ago, he had over 1,000 yards. 4 years ago, he had over 1,000 yards. So let's see if he can dig deep into that well and have another big year. But again, veteran leadership for a primarily young core receiver group there. So I like that Allen Robinson signing.
Yeah. Well, the last couple of years, the Steelers president, Art Rooney II, has made a big push to get tougher and more physical. This year, they did exactly that with some of the big guys up front moving up to get Broderick Jones in the first round of the draft, and in free agency, adding Seumalo and Nate Herbig up front on offense, and drafting Keanu Benton and adding some depth, signing former Charger starter Braden Fiocco. Chris, do you like these changes? Did they get tougher?
I think so. Listen, these guys are tough physical players. And when you bring in Seumalo and you bring in Fiocco, these are tough names to pronounce here, right?
Say that
when
too.
you're going fast too, right? When you're saying these names, these are physical players, right? Herbig's a physical guy, so it'll be interesting to see. I thought that the Steelers' offensive line got more physical after the bye week last year. They ran the ball better because they came out and said, we're going to line up and play physical football, and they were much better. So it was interesting for me to see that they signed these 2 offensive linemen and drafted a left tackle, but they're going to have some good depth, some good football players there right now.
And it's 100% going to be an interesting training camp, that's for sure. All right, time to take a break. Coming up next, we take a look at the Steelers division. The Ravens, Browns, Bengals all made moves. We get Hoki's opinion on who won the offseason.
Steelers Schedule Release Show is brought to you by GetGo. GetGo. Better believe it. Welcome back to the Steelers Schedule Release Show.
All right, welcome back. I'm Rich Walsh along with Chris Hoke, and we're breaking down the Steelers' schedule and looking at their opponents. So let's get into the division. Take a look at the biggest gains and losses from each team. Baltimore made the biggest moves, in my opinion, locking up Lamar Jackson, giving him some receiving help, adding OBJ. But they lost Calais Campbell. Cleveland added Tomlinson, lost Kareem Hunt. Cincy didn't have to do too much because they've been pretty good the last couple years, but they did add a safety, Jesse Bates, but also lost the lineman Orlando Brown. What jumps out to you on this list?
Well, listen, Baltimore, if Odell Beckham Jr. is healthy and losing, that's big to add a weapon to Lamar Jackson, but getting Lamar Jackson, if he can stay healthy, that's going to be huge because he is such a weapon on the football field. But Calais Campbell, that's a tough loss. He's really physical on that defensive line.
All right, regardless of the changes, the Steelers have always done well against division opponents, right? The Steelers don't have a losing record against any of these teams under Tomlin. You played for them. You know them. Why has Mike Tomlin been so successful against these guys?
Because you know and you're very familiar with your division, and Coach Tomlin is a great preparer, and he knows how to beat these teams. He has their number. And it's just one of those things where the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't care what anybody says, they still are the big brothers. Yes, they had a down year last year, and they maybe haven't won playoff games in recent years, but they are still one of the team in the AFC North.
All right, well, stay right there. Coming up next, we'll take another look at the schedule. Also, we'll put a finishing touch on this show and give our predictions. Stay right there.
Welcome back to the Steelers Schedule Release Show.
All right, here's a final look at their schedule. We got the preseason schedule. They have 2 away games, 1 home game. And you can see right there, they open up at Tampa, at home against Buffalo, then Atlanta. And during the regular season, the first game is at home against San Francisco. Haven't been home since 2014. Then you followed with Cleveland, Las Vegas, Houston, Baltimore, then the bye week, then the Rams, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Green Bay at home, then 2 tough division games, Arizona. And they finish out the schedule, Cincinnati, at Seattle, at Baltimore. We don't have a lot of time to go, but before we go, I want your prediction.
I'm looking at right now, just on the surface, 10-7. I think the Steelers will be a little bit better than they were last year. They might squeeze into the playoffs. It all depends on Kenny Pickett, though, Richie.
Yeah.
If Kenny Pickett can take that next big step, you can see that maybe going to 11-6, but he is the wild card.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think they're 1 game better. I picked 10-7, and that's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. For Chris Hoke, check out him at HokeyBro76 at Twitter. I'm Rich Walsh. Have a great night, and I'll see you later.